Hey everybody, this is Maddie with Altcoin Buzz. And just as I was getting ready to film this video and hit the record button, I was observing the total market cap for cryptocurrency. We were hovering just above 400 billion, maybe 401, 402. And then a moment before I hit record, we must have jumped about $9-10 billion because we're sitting here at 412. And that happened in a matter of minutes, which is honestly, it's a great thing to see. I get the sense in these last couple of weeks, and I'm sure many of you will agree, that we're getting a lot of positivity back into the market. A lot of those weak hands have been shaken out. A lot of the FUD has started to subside. There's more and more positive news coming out on a daily basis. We're hearing about banks, we're hearing about industry, we're hearing about hedge funds and investment houses all getting excited again about cryptocurrency. The technology has not changed. The market sentiment has swung back around, but the fundamentals have not changed. If anything, it's improved and more people are getting exposed to it. So let's take a look at these market cap metrics. Look at that, went up again, almost $1 billion. Holy cow. All right, so looking at this latest bit here, so let me just zoom in here and make that a little bit larger for the viewers. This is going back, as you can see here, April 21st. Now, we've been climbing steadily for about, I'd say almost 2 weeks now, just about, climbing up from about the 250 or so even further back than this, but climbing back up from that 260, $270 billion range, and just steady increases, steady incremental growth, not volatile, nice and strong. That's the kind I like to see. I like to see this kind of growth because it suggests less volatility, it suggests organic growth and organic increases in market confidence. So on April 21st, we got up to about $393 billion US for the total crypto market cap, and just flirting 395, just flirting with that $400 billion mark, and we got sent back down. We got timid, we got skittish. And it took another day or so, hovering just below 395, 396. Didn't quite make it until we hit April 23rd, $400 billion. So here we were testing that resistance point. We did pretty well. And it looks like here, there's a very confident uptrend. There's been a very confident Bitcoin purchase, which we'll get to in a moment, that really suggests, we've been able to blast through that psychological barrier with confidence, with volume, with momentum. So that's fantastic. By the way, that's totally reciprocated here in the TradingView charts. So not only are we at that psychological $400 billion total market cap barrier, not only have we surpassed that, perhaps more importantly, what do we have here? 9,000 US dollars per Bitcoin. So again, this happened in the last few minutes. We're on a 5-minute interval here. So within the last maybe half an hour or so, we just blasted through that $9,000 Bitcoin price barrier. And as you can see, we've just been able to creep through it previously. Here we have April 22nd. So we just touched it a couple of times on April 22nd, 3 times in fact, but came right back down, got rejected. We were too skittish. Before that, we tested it on April 21st and came all the way back down to 8,600. But this here, this represents to me a very strong, a very robust purchase spike of Bitcoin with confidence, with volume. That's great to see. And as a Canadian, as somebody that's coming out of this harsh winter, we finally got today on April 23rd, we finally got a beautiful day of weather. The sun is out. The market seems to be echoing the weather and the sentiments are positive. The vibes are good. So that's just great to see. Now, looking at the market, looking at some of the big players in the market, it's been very nice to note that a lot of the top cryptos have just been enjoying at least single, but in some cases double-digit percentage point gains over 24-hour periods of time. Bitcoin Cash has been knocking it out of the park. It's been fantastic. But really, no matter what crypto you're in, the top 10 have all been very solid performers. And if you look at the top 100, you have some that have been just exceptional in their performance lately. So this is great to see. I think this represents a positive trend. I think it represents confidence that's being pumped back into the market. Hopefully not too quickly. We don't want things to overheat, but this has been a nice steady return to, hopefully, don't want to jinx it, cross your fingers, but hopefully to the beginnings of a new bear cycle. It's also interesting to note that the Bitcoin dominance has been decreasing as we've seen these large gains in the total crypto market cap. Now, Bitcoin dominance is an interesting thing, and it's certainly open to debate, but certain schools of thought would suggest that it's either Bitcoin that's hot or the alternative being the altcoins. And when you have Bitcoin surging, as we see here in December, you have altcoins that are lagging a little bit further behind. And then when Bitcoin dominance decreases, that's typically when you see strength in the altcoins. So over the last little while, certainly in February and March, we were noting, let me just make that a little bit bigger here. So in February and March in particular of this year, we were certainly noting that trend. It was an inverse correlation. You had Bitcoin dominance increasing from about 34% to its recent high of about 45%. That's about a 10% gain in Bitcoin dominance, which represents its percentage of the total cryptocurrency market cap, right? And simultaneously, you had a decrease. So like I said, an inverse relationship, an inverse correlation with the altcoin market, which now all of a sudden is starting to rise back up as Bitcoin dominance is starting to decrease. Now, that's certainly not a sign of weakness. It's just an interesting trend worth noting. And some would say that it suggests the beginnings of a new altcoin cycle. So we are seeing a lot of strength in some of the altcoins. And I hope this is something that you're all doing, but always make sure to check some of your favorite coins against Bitcoin performance, right? If your altcoins are performing well versus Bitcoin, then that suggests a better investment than would have otherwise been the case had you just purchased Bitcoin. So we're seeing certainly some excellent performers against Bitcoin, a lot of double-digit gains, a lot of single-digit 24-hour green percentage gains. That's fantastic. Now, let's flip that. And I think although there are some that have trailed behind Bitcoin, certainly, it looks like the winners have outpaced the losers, at least in the last 24 hours. So this is just something I like to do. I like to track my investments against Bitcoin as well as the US dollar personally. And it's something I encourage everybody to do. So if you're not already checking out altcoinbuzz.io, the website, make sure you do, because we have a lot of great articles that link exactly to this kind of content. So from a couple of days ago, a nice article by Luke Lammers, who's suggesting that the altcoin season could be ramping back up. And there are many people that do suggest, right, that the cyclical nature of the market is such that whether bearish or bullish, Bitcoin will have its runs, right? And that's almost in sort of a reflective inverse relationship to the strength of the altcoin market. So there always tends to be one that's outperforming the other. And when Bitcoin is doing well, altcoins tend to be doing poorly by comparison, and vice versa. So this article goes on to suggest that we're nearing the end of really one of the cycles that's outlined here that began in late 2017. And it's suggesting that we're on the cusp of really a new bullish cycle for altcoins. And there are all kinds of metrics that you can use to support this. Of course, it's somewhat theoretical. Just because Bitcoin dominance is going down, it doesn't necessarily suggest that altcoins are going to soar, but it's something to consider. And when looking at your investments, I think it's worth doing an overview of these kinds of analytics and getting a sense of where things may be trending. So make sure you guys do check out Altcoin Buzz. It's a great resource, and there's some great articles, great news that's shared on a daily basis, and I encourage you all to check that out. So another great source is Cointelegraph for news. And something I noticed, if I can find it, major UAE bank implements blockchain tech to prevent check fraud. Now, I find this interesting because I've worked with banks in the past. I've also lived in the UAE. So I lived in Abu Dhabi. I was living in the United Arab Emirates a couple of years ago, and I was working for one of their major airlines. Coincidentally, The airline Emirates out of Dubai, it shares the same name as their bank. So Emirates, MBD, is very similar to the Emirates airline. I was not working for Emirates, but we dealt with them very regularly. So clicking on this link, I have it open in another tab. The UAE is a government that is that is to be applauded for their push toward independence. They're all about securing their national independence in a cooperative way, to be sure, but they want to make sure that they're in control of their future. This is at the level of their resources, of their financing, of their infrastructure projects. They're looking towards the future. They're looking towards prosperous growth. And what's interesting about this particular article is that they're quite keen on crypto. And what they seem to be doing is they're implementing blockchain technology, right, in a check issuance system to prevent fraud. Now, this is the weird doublethink that's going on, and not this article, but this in the zeitgeist of what's out there. We keep hearing about cryptocurrency and privacy coins and blockchain, and we keep hearing about all of the negatives associated with them. When those FUD storms hit us, we kept hearing about money laundering. We kept hearing about the dark web. We kept hearing about all the illicit purchases that could be made with blockchain, as if criminals have never used cash, right? I always laughed off those reports. I found them preposterous. Blockchain cryptocurrency is eminently more traceable, more accountable than any cash alternative, than any currency you can suggest in the world. So it's nice to see some positive publicity at the level of what some of these banks are doing in an effort to prevent fraud. Because in my opinion, that's absolutely a massive, massive application of blockchain. And as long as it's implemented properly, there's no reason that it can't be used for the better. Speaking of places that I've lived, I've also been fortunate enough to spend some time living and studying in China. They're extremely bullish on blockchain, on crypto in general. There is some there does seem to be a little bit of I suppose you could say back and forth as far as different opinions that may be coming out of different press releases, different media outlets in China. So you'll often find some bearish or some negative sentiment juxtaposed against some very, very positive press. But this is an interesting observation here about Shenzen that is looking to make a massive investment in blockchain. Shenzen being a Chinese city, and you do have your factions. You have your groups that are more pro, more bullish, more enthusiastic, and those perhaps that aren't. But China is a big country. It's a very populous nation, and there's certainly many people, many organizations, many corporations that are in that more bullish camp. So I encourage you guys to check this out and explore this article in more detail. Just a final piece of quick news. This to me sums up in a nutshell. This is from a couple of days ago. It sums up to me in a nutshell the beauty that is cryptocurrency. I mentioned that I've worked with banks. I've worked with some transfers, whether they're domestic or international money transfers. This is something that Charlie Lee has commented on. So Charlie Lee being the architect, the father of Litecoin, if you will. So someone transferred, and this is basing off of those that track sort of the big Litecoin wallets. But there was a wallet transfer equivalent to $99 million in Litecoin. And how much did that cost to transfer 99 million US dollars worth of Litecoin? 40 cents. Guys, if you've ever been involved in money transfers, to transfer even a few tens of thousands, for example, will run up a bill of at least hundreds of dollars. And this to me is a perfect example of the great technology, the great convenience, the great efficiency that is blockchain. I'm a big Litecoin guy on top of that, so that's sort of frosting on top, cherry on top of the cake. But this goes in general for the world of crypto. The Lightning Network is getting better and better within Bitcoin, within Litecoin, and the fact that you can transfer $100 million worth of currency for 40 cents American. People are saying that that would have cost upwards of 40,000 US dollars to transfer had they used PayPal. So it just goes to show the advantage. I think it's quite remarkable. Guys, there's many more stories like this. If you're not already following Altcoin Buzz on Twitter, make sure you do. And of course, make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube. If you like this content, give it a thumbs up. If you want to be involved in the community, guys, this is a collaborative effort. This is all about reaching out, being involved, hearing your ideas. If you want to hear more about a particular topic, you want something covered specifically, leave a comment, let me know, and I'll be happy to correspond and to interact with you guys. Hope you have a great day. Happy trading. Cheers.